16 News now investigates the death of a South Bend baby boy we first told you about back in February. Months later, there's still no official cause of death despite an autopsy that listed numerous injuries.
Investigative reporter Carly Luca talks exclusively with the baby's maternal grandmother as she seeks answers for Asaiah. And we want to warn you, the contents of this report may be disturbing to some viewers.
A young life that ended too soon.
He was just a baby, just a sweet baby.
A shocking autopsy report that shows far too many injuries for his little body to handle.
The amount of suffering he had to go through.
And a family that remains without closure.
We can't even look for peace until we make sure that we take care of this.
Tanya Rosenberger is on a fight for justice, seeking accountability for the death of her grandson, 6-month-old Asaiah Malik. Putting up road signs directing people to her Facebook group and Change.org petition, where she shares the disturbing details of what happened to the infant. In January, Asaiah was found unresponsive by his paternal grandmother, lying face down on the floor on top of some clothing. That's according to a post-mortem report shared with us by Asaiah's family. He was last seen alive while sleeping in bed with that grandmother and a sibling, a red flag for any expert on infant sleep safety. According to the Indiana State Department of Health, for an infant to sleep safely, they must be alone, on their backs, and in a crib, not a bed or a sofa.
He was admittedly in the bed with his grandmother. Like, people have been charged and in this state as well with that. Why are we sitting here? What's the holdup and why?
But that's just the beginning of this grim tale told in black and white. There's a lot of data to process from this autopsy, pages and pages that family members are combing through to try and figure out why Asaiah's life was cut short.
26 pages just about his rib injuries. At least 23 fractures. They said very clearly, at least. That's from what they sampled. It was just so much, I guess, they quit. Some of these ribs were well healed. Some of these ribs were fresh. 23 fractures. I mean, he had to be in, I just don't even.
The anthropology report concludes most ribs had multiple injuries at multiple stages of healing and consistent with blunt force trauma. The post-examination report refers to these injuries as well as the head injuries, calling them highly concerning for non-accidental trauma. In fact, the post-examination report says Asaiah's injuries were consistent with non-accidental trauma and blunt force trauma, including cranial trauma. A devastating depiction of Asaiah's 6-month life.
Just for him, the thought that he maybe thought that's what life was about.
Despite the pages of documented evidence, Asaiah's death has been ruled undetermined, begging the question, what would it take to classify this as neglect or as a homicide?
Why is somebody not sitting in jail? How is it not a good arrest? These people, in the very least, that were responsible for him, were there. They were neglectful.
Though the autopsy was conducted at Western Michigan University, the coroner overseeing the case is St. Joseph County's Dr. Patricia Jordan. We reached out to her to ask why the cause and manner of death could not be determined, but she told us she was not at liberty to discuss the case due to privacy reasons. The St. Joseph Metro Homicide Unit has been leading the investigation into Asaiah's January death, but 11 months later, they say they have no new updates.
That kind of feels like a slap in the face because, like, where's your urgency?
When asked if this is being investigated as a homicide, Metro said it is a death investigation. Determining the cause and manner of the death is the focus. Putting this family back at square one and feeling desperate for the community's help.
They need to know this happened here. They need to know that it could be your kid, your grandkid, you know, and it's unacceptable in every way. It's hurtful. It's like insult to injury. We can't even mourn or grieve him because We have to do this for him. I mean, how does he rest?
With an autopsy that shows not just rib fractures, but contusions as well as bleeding consistent with severe head trauma, what or who would have caused those injuries? Asaiah's father Avarius had custody of him for the last month of his life.
The whole situation was pretty chaotic between his mom and dad, and they separated. He was with his dad for over the last month of his life.
Sadly, Avarius has a past arrest of domestic violence. He was arrested in May of 2020 for domestic battery on a pregnant person. That was Asaiah's mom while she was 8 months pregnant with Asaiah.
It should be looked at because he was with him. It's not a far fetch to me. You're 8 months pregnant. How do you do that to an 8 month pregnant? You're doing it to the baby as well.
And how often do families just like Asaiah's lose their babies far too soon? In the most recent report of child abuse and neglect fatalities in Indiana from 2016, 59 deaths were analyzed. Of those, 24 were homicides, 17 happening to infants under 1 year in age. But DCS is only required to review child fatalities in children under the age of 3 if the child's death is sudden, unexpected, or unexplained, or there are allegations of abuse or neglect. We asked if the agency would be reviewing Asaiah's passing, but were told they cannot comment on DCS involvement, past or present, with specific families. With few answers from officials, Asaiah's maternal grandmother is moving forward, pursuing justice for Asaiah.
I mean, they have to. They can't just not do anything about this, and that's why we're going public. I feel like if people know, they're going to be outraged. It's disgusting what happened and what is still happening.
And for baby Asaiah, she wants everyone to know that he mattered.
And I really just hope he knows, like, that I love him. He was loved. He was loved. No matter what the people that were responsible for him, you know, whatever happened there, he was loved by a lot of people. And I hope that we can get him some justice. I really do. I feel like if we keep pushing, they can't ignore us.
Asaiah never got to celebrate his first birthday, and because of the pandemic, never had a funeral. The family's asking the community to come out and celebrate Asaiah's life while helping them to get answers about his passing. They're gathering tomorrow outside the Morris Performing Arts Center at 4:45. A balloon release will be held at 5:45 ahead of a walk at 6 down Michigan Street, past the prosecutor's office, courthouse, and DCS office, ending back at the Morris. The public is welcome to attend. We have more information about it with this full report available at WNDU.com. For 16 News Now Investigates, I'm Carly Luca.